Well, here in Alberta, the term nouveau riche is something we've heard for quite some time, with so many people becoming millionaires here in Alberta. In fact, in Calgary, there are more millionaires per capita than anywhere else in Canada. But now, with the economic downturn, we're dealing with people who are really struggling financially. But it's important to keep in mind there's a big difference between financial struggles and actual poverty.
Okay, explain that a bit, because we think there must be a crisis underway because these well-paying jobs have been lost.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a number of jobs. I mean, tens of thousands of jobs are being lost, and people are financially struggling. But let's keep in mind, here in Calgary, per capita, people had the highest incomes and the highest disposable income in anywhere else in Canada. And now these families who are making these, really high salaries are now starting to shift. Now, to be under around $40,000 that's where it's deemed to be heading towards poverty, and that's still around 120,000 people in Calgary who are struggling with that.
Okay, so that's a very different kind of poverty than unemployment. That's chronic. How are social services coping with that increase in people in need?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke to a couple of social services, and there is an influx of people who are starting to come. But with less money coming into the province, it's getting harder and harder for the social services to be able to give the support they need.
Okay, Matt, let's take a look then at one of the organizations you met with and how families, specifically children, can get help.
How we define poverty, it's a poverty of resources, not just money. People focus in on the money, but it's a poverty of spirit, a poverty of hope, a poverty of those things, ambition maybe. How do you get out of the situation? The poverty of the ability to actually believe that you can change the circumstances you have.
So are there more circumstances and other factors that lead to poverty other than just the economic downturn?
Huge, huge. It really starts at early childhood development, and if you're not getting the love and care and attention that every kid needs to fully develop as a human being, they're going to be struggling for their whole lives.
Have you seen this before?
No, it's the economic downturn is not solely responsible for what's going on. It's embedded within how we work as a community, and it's embedded in the fact that families need to come together and help each other really well and overcome the early childhood adversities that happen, which I think is the basis of how it's intergenerational, this poverty happens.
Now, when you look across Canada, is it worse in Alberta now with the economic downturn, or how would you classify that?
I would say it's worse in Alberta, the economic downturn, because of people turning to substance abuse to help them overcome the pain that's in their lives. Their hopes and dreams are going, they turn to something else, and then families fall apart. And then the worst thing for that is then the kids get impacted by it, and then their whole life trajectory is hurt by this thing.
What can people do to help?
First and foremost, love your kids and love your family and help those who are in need. You carry on. We as a community need to believe in each other. We're all Albertans here, and we're working towards finding the solution. We're in this together, and we will solve this together.
Okay, thanks for that, Matthew. And you also spoke with Major Al Heft of the Salvation Army. He had a different perspective on the economic downturn. Let's take a look.
We've been working with people on the margins in our communities for over 150 years, and we understand that we as communities need to always have ways that we come alongside and support and encourage and help bring everybody else along. It's not enough for a community or a culture or a society to thrive and be economically vibrant if we are not bringing everybody along with us.
Now, in the last few years, Alberta in the West has suffered an economic downturn. What effects have you seen?
Well, certainly we've noticed the economic impact throughout this whole time. We've seen so many more people who have never come to us for assistance suddenly showing up on our doors and realizing that they need some support. At the same time, these are folks that maybe along the way have supported the work that we've done and helped others. And so there are fewer and fewer people able to support the work that we're doing, and more people needing that work.
Now, how does something like a layoff affect a person to the point that you may see them in your work?
Well, it not only impacts them economically. I mean, everybody understands that point. There's going to be an economic issue, but then there's also a self-esteem issue and a self-confidence issue. And people suddenly, they don't necessarily have the capacity to get back up off the mat anymore.
Now, we've had tens of thousands of layoffs. Is there a big difference between a family that's struggling financially, say paycheck to paycheck, versus poverty?
Absolutely. I mean, just dire poverty is one thing, and the resources that are available, people reach out to them and they learn how to take advantage of those, and where to turn to find supports in those times. And poverty is so hard to dig out of, right? And so many people struggle on a regular basis trying to find their way out of poverty.
Where do you find the hope, and what can the average person do to help?
Well, obviously, I mean, I'm a minister of the gospel. That's a Salvation Army officer. I'm ordained. I'm a clergyman. I've been a Christian my whole life. I find hope in the gospel. I find hope in the reality that I believe in Jesus, that we have hope, that there's an eternal hope, but that there's hope for today and hope for tomorrow.